Every single day, over 100 million bullets are fired around the world. 100 million. That's enough to circle the Earth 3 times if you laid them end to end. But here's what nobody tells you. Every single one of those bullets has a secret inside it that could literally blow your mind. And no, we're not talking about the obvious explosion. Right now, somewhere in the world, a factory worker is handling enough explosive material to level an entire city block, and they're doing it with their bare hands. Well, almost. The powder inside one single bullet contains enough energy to launch a projectile faster than the speed of sound. Imagine that. Faster than sound, from something smaller than your pinky finger. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. The chemical compound that makes this possible is so sensitive that it can explode from static electricity. Yes, the same static shock you get from touching a doorknob could theoretically detonate enough bullets to blow up a car. That's why bullet factories have some of the most extreme safety protocols on the planet, more intense than nuclear power plants in some cases. And here's the kicker that'll keep you watching. There's a microscopic component inside every bullet, smaller than a grain of rice, that if it fails by even 1 millimeter, the entire thing becomes a weapon against the person firing it. Guns literally blow up in people's hands because of this tiny piece. Over 200 people per year experience catastrophic firearm failures. Their weapons explode in their hands. Still think bullets are simple? They're not. They're miniature missiles packed with chemistry, physics, and enough explosive power to punch through steel. And what you're about to discover will change the way you see every action movie, every video game, every news report about firearms forever. Welcome to the hidden world of bullets, where one microscopic mistake means death, where workers handle enough explosives daily to destroy buildings, and where the science is so precise that NASA uses similar technology for rockets. Yeah, you read that right. Rocket science and bullet science, they're basically cousins. Let's dive into the most shocking facts about bullets that nobody talks about. And trust us, by the end of this, you'll never look at an action movie the same way again, because Hollywood gets it wrong. Like really, really wrong. First mind-blowing fact, the loudest sound most humans will ever hear in their lifetime is a gunshot. We're talking 140 to 190 decibels. To put that in perspective, a jet engine at takeoff is 140 decibels. A gunshot? Up to 190. That's enough to cause instant, permanent hearing damage. One shot, done. Death. That's why soldiers and shooting range enthusiasts wear serious ear protection, because your eardrums don't get a second chance. But here's what's truly wild. The bullet itself is actually the safest part of the whole equation. Yes, you heard that right. The explosive powder inside is stable. The primer compound is stable and properly handled. The brass casing is just metal. But the moment you add human error, physics, or a manufacturing defect into the mix, that's when things go catastrophically wrong. In 2019, a major ammunition manufacturer had to recall over 2 million bullets because of a microscopic defect in the primer compound. 2 million. The defect? A variance of 0.02 millimeters. That's 20 micrometers. To put that in perspective, a human hair is 70 micrometers thick. This defect was smaller than half the width of a human hair, and it was enough to potentially cause guns to explode in people's faces. Speaking of explosions, here's something that'll blow your mind. Bullets don't actually explode. Not in the way you think. The powder inside doesn't blow up, it burns incredibly fast. We're talking complete combustion in 0.001 seconds, 1/1000th of a second. In that impossibly short time, the burning powder creates expanding gases that generate pressures of up to 60,000 psi. For reference, your car tire has about 32 psi. A fire hose, maybe 300 psi. Bullets, 60,000. Now, let's talk about something nobody tells you about bullets. They're actually terrible at their job. Wait, what? Yes, modern bullets are designed to fail in very specific ways. Here's the thing, a perfectly round aerodynamic bullet would just punch a small hole through its target and keep going. Minimal damage, maximum overpenetration. That's bad for military and law enforcement purposes, because it means the bullet could go through walls, cars, even multiple people. So engineers developed bullets that intentionally break apart at impact. These are called hollow points, and they're basically designed to mushroom and fragment inside the target. Sounds brutal? It is. But here's the twisted logic. A bullet that fragments inside the first target is safer for bystanders because it won't exit and hit someone else. Military ethics and physics created one of the most devastatingly effective projectiles in human history, and it's all legal. But here's where it gets weird. Some countries ban hollow point ammunition in warfare because it causes unnecessary suffering according to the Hague Convention of 1899, yet police forces around the world use them exclusively for civilian law enforcement. Let that sink in. Too inhumane for soldiers, but perfectly fine for civilians. The logic is actually sound from a safety perspective. Overpenetration in urban environments is dangerous, but the irony is unsettling. Moving on to something that sounds like science fiction but is 100% real, smart bullets. Yes, they exist. The US military developed self-guided bullets called Exacto, Extreme Accuracy Tasked Ordnance, that can change direction mid-flight to hit moving targets. We're talking bullets with tiny fins and optical sensors that adjust trajectory in real time. A sniper can aim at a target, fire, and even if the target moves, the bullet corrects its path. This isn't Call of Duty, this is real life, and it's been operational since 2015. The cost? About $27,000 per bullet. Yes, $27,000 for a single round of ammunition. For that price, you could buy a new car. But here's the kicker. When you're trying to hit a high-value target from 2 kilometers away in windy conditions, that $27,000 bullet suddenly seems like a bargain compared to the $500 million drone or the $400 million fighter jet it might save. Now let's talk about the weirdest bullet fact of all time. Bullets can't actually travel through water, at least not effectively. Movies show people diving underwater to escape gunfire, and they're actually right about this one. When a bullet hits water, it immediately starts tumbling and losing velocity. By the time it's traveled just 3 feet underwater, it's basically harmless. The denser medium causes so much drag that the bullet becomes ineffective almost instantly. Mythbusters tested this extensively, and even a .50 caliber rifle, one of the most powerful civilian firearms, couldn't penetrate more than 3 feet of water. But here's the insane part. That same .50 caliber bullet can penetrate 12 inches of solid concrete in air. 12 inches through concrete. But put 3 feet of water in the way? Nope. Physics is weird. Speaking of weird physics, bullets don't fly in a straight line. Ever. Not even close. The moment a bullet leaves the barrel, gravity starts pulling it down. Wind pushes it sideways. The Earth's rotation actually affects long-range shots through something called the Coriolis effect. Yes, the same force that makes hurricanes spin. Professional snipers shooting at distances over 1,000 meters have to calculate for the Earth literally rotating underneath the bullet during its flight. That's how precise this science is. And here's something that'll make you appreciate action movies less. Silencers don't work the way Hollywood shows them. That quiet pew-pew sound, total fiction. A suppressed gunshot is still around 120 to 130 decibels, about as loud as a jackhammer. Suppressors reduce the noise by 20 to 30 decibels, which is significant for hearing protection, but it's still loud. John Wick wouldn't be having silent gunfights in crowded areas. Everyone would hear it. The entire building would know. But the craziest sound fact about bullets is the supersonic crack. When a bullet travels faster than sound, which most rifle bullets do, it creates a sonic boom, a miniature sonic boom. That sharp crack you hear? That's the bullet breaking the sound barrier. It's literally the same physics as when jets go supersonic. Every single shot creates its own thunder. How insane is that? Now here's a dark curiosity that factories never advertise. Bullets have expiration dates. Yes, really. Ammunition can go bad. The powder inside slowly degrades over time, especially if exposed to moisture or temperature fluctuations. Most ammunition is considered reliable for 10 to 20 years if stored properly. But improperly stored, it can fail in as little as 2 to 3 years. And fail means the bullet doesn't fire, or it fires with unpredictable pressure that could blow up the gun.
Let's talk about something truly disturbing. Accidental bullets. Every year, approximately 500 people in the United States alone are killed by firearms that discharged accidentally. Not intentionally, just accidentally. A gun dropped on the floor, a firearm cleaning gone wrong, a child finding a loaded weapon. 500 people. That's more than die from lightning strikes. And it's all because bullets are designed to be so sensitive to impact by design that they can fire from being dropped at the wrong angle. But here's the nightmare fuel. Modern ammunition is actually safer than historical ammunition. In the old days, we're talking 1800s and early 1900s, bullets were so unstable that entire ammunition depots would occasionally just explode. In 1926, a U.S. Navy ammunition depot in Lake Denmark, New Jersey, exploded with such force that it registered on seismographs as far away as Philadelphia, 60 miles away. The explosion destroyed over $70 million worth of ammunition, equivalent to over $1 billion today, and shattered windows 20 miles away, all because of a lightning strike that hit one single case of unstable ammunition. Now, enter the experts. Dr. James Mitchell, a ballistics expert with 30 years of experience, explains, the primer compound in modern bullets contains lead styphnate, which is one of the most sensitive chemical compounds we regularly work with in any industry. It requires a shock of approximately 0.25 joules to detonate. That's roughly equivalent to dropping a small marble from 12 inches. This sensitivity is intentional, but it makes manufacturing incredibly dangerous. He continues, every single bullet factory in the world has what we call blast walls, reinforced concrete barriers designed to contain blasts from the primer manufacturing area. These walls are 3 feet thick and can withstand the detonation of approximately 1,000 primers simultaneously. Why 1,000? Because that's the typical batch size being handled at any one time. If something goes wrong, the blast wall prevents the entire factory from chain reacting. Captain Sarah Rodriguez, a military ordnance specialist, adds, what most people don't realize is that bullets are more dangerous to manufacture than many military explosives. C4 plastic explosive, for example, requires a detonator to explode. You can literally burn it safely. But primer compounds, they can detonate from static electricity, friction, impact, or even rapid compression. That's why workers in primer manufacturing facilities wear special anti-static clothing and shoes that ground them constantly. But here's where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, we mean terrifying. Dr. Mitchell reveals, the lead content in bullets presents a huge environmental and health problem that nobody talks about. Every single bullet fired deposits microscopic lead particles into the air and soil. Indoor shooting ranges have massive ventilation systems because lead exposure causes neurological damage, kidney damage, and reproductive issues. Workers at bullet manufacturing plants have some of the highest occupational lead exposure levels of any industry. We're talking blood lead levels that would shut down any other workplace. He adds, there's a reason why many countries are pushing for lead-free bullets. It's not just environmental, it's a public health crisis. The U.S. military alone fires over 1 billion rounds per year during training. That's literally tons of lead being deposited into training ranges. Some military bases have soil lead contamination levels that classify them as hazardous waste sites. Professor David Chen, a materials scientist who studies ammunition, drops this bomb. Here's something that'll shock people. The brass casing of a bullet is often more valuable than the bullet itself. Brass is expensive. It's recyclable. Military forces and shooting ranges collect spent brass casings and sell them back to manufacturers. There's a massive secondary market for spent brass. Some shooting ranges make more money from selling brass than from charging people to shoot. And here's the wildest fact Professor Chen reveals. The rifling inside a gun barrel, those spiral grooves, wears down over time from bullet friction. A typical military rifle barrel is considered worn out after 5,000 to 10,000 rounds. That's it. The metal literally wears away from friction. Each bullet traveling down the barrel at 3,000 feet per second generates so much heat and friction that it slowly grinds away the steel. It's like using sandpaper on metal 10,000 times. Now back to curiosities that'll keep you awake at night. Tracer bullets, those glowing rounds you see in war movies, are actually on fire. Yes, the back of the bullet contains a pyrotechnic compound that ignites when fired. It burns at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit while the bullet is in flight.
These tracer bullets are used to help shooters see where their shots are going, but here's the insane part. They're also extremely effective at starting fires. Tracer rounds have started countless wildfires, burned down buildings, and even ignited fuel tanks. In military contexts, every fifth round in a machine gun belt is a tracer, so you can literally see the arc of bullets like lasers in the darkness. But here's the dark side of tracers. They work both ways. Yes, they help the shooter see where they're aiming, but they also reveal exactly where you are. It's a calculated risk in combat situations. Let's talk about armor-piercing bullets, because these things are straight out of science fiction. Standard bullets are lead core with copper jackets. Armor-piercing bullets? They have hardened steel or tungsten core that can punch through steel plates like they're cardboard. We're talking bullets that can penetrate half an inch of hardened steel armor at 100 meters. Half an inch of steel. The physics behind this is insane. It's all about concentrating force into the tiniest possible area. The bullet doesn't push through the steel. It actually punches a hole by creating so much pressure at the point of impact that the steel fails catastrophically. But here's the terrifying reality. Armor-piercing bullets are mostly banned for civilian use in many countries. Why? Because they don't just defeat body armor, they go through car doors, concrete walls, and basically anything a normal person might use as cover. A criminal with armor-piercing bullets could shoot through a police car door and hit the officer inside. That's why they're heavily regulated. Military only. Now, here's something nobody talks about. The bullet you fire today might have been manufactured 30 years ago. Seriously, military ammunition is stockpiled for decades. The US military has ammunition from the 1980s that's still in active service. As long as it's stored properly, climate-controlled, sealed containers, no moisture, ammunition can last 50-plus years. There are documented cases of World War II ammunition being fired in the 2000s. That's 60-year-old bullets that still worked perfectly. But here's the crazy part. Sometimes old ammunition works better than new ammunition. Vintage military surplus bullets are highly sought after by collectors and competitive shooters because the quality control was sometimes better in the past. Soviet-era ammunition from the 1970s is considered some of the most reliable ever manufactured because Soviet quality standards were insane. They literally tested ammunition by freezing it to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, then heating it to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, then firing it, just to make sure it worked in all conditions. That level of testing is rare today. Speaking of extreme conditions, bullets work in space. NASA has conducted experiments showing that firearms would operate in zero gravity and vacuum conditions. The gunpowder doesn't need atmospheric oxygen to burn. It contains its own oxidizer. So yes, theoretically, you could fire a gun on the moon. The bullet would travel much farther than on Earth because there's no air resistance. A bullet fired on the moon could travel for miles before gravity, which is 1/6 of Earth's gravity, pulled it down. Astronauts bringing weapons to space? It's been discussed for self-defense against, well, that's classified, but the physics work. Here's a mind-bending fact about bullet speeds. The fastest bullets ever created travel at over 4,000 feet per second. That's roughly 2,700 miles per hour. For comparison, the speed of sound is about 767 miles per hour. These bullets are traveling at almost 4 times the speed of sound. At those velocities, the bullet creates so much friction with air that the copper jacket literally starts to melt mid-flight. The air itself becomes a furnace. Now, let's talk about the most expensive bullet ever made, the .700 Nitro Express. A single bullet costs about $100. $100 for one bullet. Why so expensive? It's massive. It weighs as much as a golf ball and is designed to stop charging elephants in Cape Buffalo. The recoil from firing one of these is so intense that it can dislocate shoulders and cause concussions if you don't brace properly. It's considered one of the most powerful conventional bullets ever created for a shoulder-fired weapon. But here's the insane part. People actually pay to fire these at shooting ranges as a bucket list experience. You pay $100 for one bullet, fire it once, and you're done. It's like the firearm equivalent of jumping out of an airplane. You do it once for the experience, and your body immediately tells you never again. Now for the darkest curiosity. Bullets have serial numbers. Well, not the